of our work session for the Clearwater City Council. Remind everybody that our meeting this week will be on Wednesday at 6 o'clock, August the 14th. We have lots of Parks and Recreation Department, solid waste employees here. Please remember that it's very hot outside and stay hydrated, whether you work for the city or whether you're just a resident and visitor. It is extremely warm, even at 9 o'clock this morning. Our first order of business is to recognize some of our employees, and I'd like to first call forward Matt Smith, who works in our legal department and has been with the city for 5 years. Mr. Smith.
Watch your step, Matt. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Steve Beringer has been with our Public Utilities Department and is celebrating 20 years of work with the City of Clearwater. Mr. Steve.
Steve Beringer began his career with the City of Clearwater on August 16, 1999, as a wastewater treatment plant operator trainee. In the next year, Steve transferred over to our solid waste department as a solid waste equipment operator, where he worked diligently for 14 years. In March of 2015, Steve promoted to public utilities as a utilities mechanic, where he excelled in the position due to his mechanical and organizational skills and his ability to work well with his coworkers. Steve was promoted to maintenance utilities supervisor in 2017, and he continues to provide excellent support to management and the employees assigned under his leadership. Steve embraces new technology in the workplace and looks forward to future trainings to enhance his skill. Steve is more than willing to accept any assignment, and he performs research and makes recommendations to the maintenance manager and coordinator. He is always available to respond to emergencies and supports public utilities in maintaining our FDEP compliant status. On a personal note, Steve relishes spending quality time with his wife of 37 years and, of course, fishing. He enjoys cooking and eating, especially the food from his native country of Trinidad and Tobago. He also has a passion for working on his motorcycle and cars. Thank you, Steve, for 20 years of excellent service. We look forward to many more in the future.
Thank you. Offshore, inshore.
Good job. Thanks, Steve.
Lost off. Thanks, Steve. Thank you.
Left your hand there.
Thank you.
Assistant Fire Chief Javon Graham has also been with the city for 20 years. Chief.
Division Chief of Emergency Management Javon Graham was hired July 1999 as a firefighter EMT. In 2004, he was promoted to a driver-operator and then served as a fire lieutenant for 12 years before he was promoted to the Assistant Chief of Health and Safety. Within a year, he was promoted to Division Chief of Emergency Management. He manages and oversees the development, maintenance, and training of a comprehensive all-hazard emergency management program for the city and areas of responsibility within the Clearwater Fire District and city-protected unincorporated areas. Division Chief Graham has been an active member of the Technical Rescue, Marine, and Dive teams for 18 years. He is an adjunct instructor at the St. Petersburg College Fire Academy and an instructor for the fire department's recruit classes. He has been honored with the Firefighter of the Year Award, the Fire Chief's Award for Distinguished Service, as well as a Motivational Mentor Award. The knowledge and experience that he shares with young and inexperienced firefighters is valuable beyond measure. He is a role model and mentor for those he supervises and instructs. Chief Graham has taken fire officer courses and obtained fire service certifications at St. Petersburg College and other agencies from around the state. He is currently enrolled at St. Petersburg College and will soon finish his bachelor's degree in public safety administration. Additionally, he has completed the Emergency Management's Advanced Professional Series and Emergency Services Leadership Institute program to further his professional career. Jamon is married to his lovely wife Liz, has 4 wonderful children and 2 four-legged children. The City of Clearwater congratulates and thanks Division Chief Graham on his 20 years of dedicated service to the fire department, the City of Clearwater, and its citizens.
Peter Elmore from our Marine Department has been with the city for 25 years. Mr. Peter. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Tom Wiggins?
Well, we got Peter up here now.
All right, Peter.
He's the employee of the month. I apologize.
Pete Elmore was on duty early in the morning of June 25th when he noticed a gentleman stumbling along the seawall at the beach marina. As Pete walked a few more steps towards the supply shop, he heard a splash in the water behind him. He quickly ran in the direction of the splash to find the gentleman had fallen into the water near one of the commercial slips. Pete, with the help of one of our attendants, was able to pull the man out of the water to safety. Peter stayed with the gentleman until the paramedics arrived a few minutes later. The man would not have been able to get out of the water on his own. Peter's quick action and selflessness may have saved this man's life. Thank you very much, Pete.
You didn't realize you'd been with us for 25 years, huh?
Thank you so much. Great job. Thank you so much.
I was just keeping Mr. Horn on his toes since he'd been away last week. Thomas Wiggins has been with the city for 25 years. Thomas is in our engineering department.
Tom Wiggins started his career with the City of Clearwater on August 8, 1994, as an equipment operator 2 in the Parks and Recreation Department. In September 2001, he was promoted to equipment operator 3. In 2003, his position was reclassified to heavy equipment operator. For 23 years, Tom provided a high quality of service and played an integral part in maintaining and beautifying the city's parks and world-renowned beach. In August 2017, Tom moved to engineering stormwater maintenance as a heavy equipment operator, where he continues to provide high-quality services to the citizens, visitors, and businesses of Clearwater. As a stormwater maintenance employee, Tom works to maintain the city's ditches, creeks, ponds, and stormwater pipe system to help reduce flooding and improve water quality. When he is slope mowing a ditch, excavating sediment from a pond, removing sand from the street ends, or helping to remove seaweed from the beach, Tom's great attitude and infectious personality make him a joy to work with as we keep Clearwater bright and beautiful from bay to beach. Congratulations, Tom, for your many accomplishments, and thank you for your 25 years of service to the City of Clearwater. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for all your support.
How you been?
Good, been good.
Congratulations.
He was one of the founders of Blast Friday. Without his help, the stage would have never got downtown Clearwater at its beginnings. So.
Absolutely. See them out on the beach many times.
I gave him my script. Hey, Tom, I gave you the wrong thing. Boy.
It must be Monday.
Okay. What a day. Yeah. Somebody want to come up and sit here today? Our bi-monthly team for July, August is our beach landscape team. Nathan Brigham, Larry Bruce, Kevin Gondlin, Larry Lapis, Travis Presley, Scott Himes, Steve Cook, Elmer Foster, Karen Weissman, Brandy Hatton, Glenn Ferris, Mark Coffin, Louis Anderson, Josh Klepper, Chad Pockert, Brian Lennon, Thomas Lanai, Zane Cool, and Chris Hurt. Ladies, gentlemen, did I get it right? Yep.
There are so many reasons why Clearwater Beach is the #1 beach in the country, from its sparkling water to the white, pristine beaches that locals and visitors love to visit. Those reasons must also include the team members of the beach landscape team. One such instance is when the team fought red tide 7 days a week from sunup to sundown and kept the beach free from dead fish so that tourists could enjoy their visit to our beach. The team communicated with our visitors in a positive manner, answering their questions and assisting tourists in a respectful manner. We want our tourists to return to Clearwater Beach as taxes collected support employee pay and benefits of not only the beach team, but the entire city workforce. The team keeps a spotless beach free of trash and anything else that might hinder the experience of a first-time visitor. The beach team's efforts may have saved the city a great amount of revenue, especially during the red tide season, as they work tirelessly to keep a beautiful beach and its surrounding areas. We host many national events, and the beach is always clean and welcoming for our guests. The team also maintains the causeway, which always leaves a good first impression upon our visitors. The beach team has had to deal with great adversity in regards to storms and red tide, just to name a couple of things, and yet they preserve and continue to keep our beach beautiful. Thank you to this team for continuing to make Clearwater bright and beautiful to the beach. Beach Landscape Team, July, August 2019, bi-monthly team winners.
Oh, he did make it.
Welcome, Kevin. To Orlando. I'll give out to the guys who are not
Good
here.
work, guys.
Okay.
Careful. Thank you so much.
Great job.
Thank you very
Good job, thanks.
Well done. Good job, guys.
Thank you so
Good job,
much.
thanks.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Watch your step. Watch your step.
Thanks for doing it.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Stay hydrated out there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Again, congratulations and thanks to all of our employees and those who were honored today. We will recess our work session and call to order the pension trustees for August the 12th. Are there any addition or corrections to the minutes of August the 12th?
Move to be approved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes of August the 12th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Anybody from the public wishing to speak to an item that is not on the agenda of the pension trustees? If not, we will close the public comment and move to agenda item 4.1. Ms. Poirier.
Good morning. Request to approve the new hires for acceptance into the pension plan as listed.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 4.1? Anybody from the public to speak to 4.1? Motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 4.1.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 4.1. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 4.2.
Request to approve the following request of employees to vest their pension as provided by section 2.419 of the employees' pension plan.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 4.2?
Move approval.
Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 4.2? Motion.
Move to approve agenda item 4.2.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 4.2, comments council. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 4.3.
Request to approve the following request of employees for a regular pension as provided by sections 2.416 and 2.424 of the employees' pension plan.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 4.3? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 4.3? Motion.
Move approval of agenda item 4.3.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 4.3, comments council. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Poirier, do you have any other business for the pension trustees?
I do not, thank you.
If not, we will close the pension trustees meeting, adjourn the pension trustees meeting, and convene the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting for August the 12th. Are there any addition or corrections to the minutes of July the 15th?
Move they be approved.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes of July the 15th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Anybody from the public wishing to speak to an item that is not on the agenda of the pension trustees? If so, please come forward at this time. Community Redevelopment Board. God. Somebody, nobody wants to do that either, okay? All in favor, yeah, well, we already, we said, we passed it, right?
The minutes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Anybody from the public wishing to speak to an item that is not on the agenda of the Community Redevelopment Board? If not, we will close public comment and move on to agenda item 4.1. Ms. Thompson.
Yes. Let's see here. Wanted to give you a brief update on the 18-month strategy, and then we'll move to our agenda item. Remember, our goal in our 18-month strategy is to create lasting change in downtown by shifting perceptions, right? We know that that's our number one challenge, the perceptions about city government and about downtown Clearwater, so that we can encourage investment. And we've been through this many times, but again, just highlighting going from, indifferent to welcoming and sole funder to partner, shifting perception of downtown from vacant to vibrant, from exclusive to welcoming. You've got the steps here. So our 4 focus areas, right? Sharing authentic, positive stories about downtown, beginning construction on Imagine Clearwater, which Assistant City Manager Delk will be giving you an update later, so I'm not going to dwell on that. Just know from a CRA perspective, the sooner we can show dirt coming out of the ground, the better it is for investors to encourage their faith in us. Permitting 600 housing units and attracting $100 million of private investment. So in June and July, we had 40 media mentions. The bulk of them were about the role of arts and culture in downtown revitalization. I hope you had a chance to enjoy Oscillation, the pyramid sculptures that played sound, that you could change how the sound sounded with your body by interacting with the sculptures. And that's a local artist. That's Urban Conga. So that's a local arts collective. And we're going to continue to work with them. They actually are part of an international conference on play and play in cities. So we'd like to bring that here next year to provide a fun experience for downtown. And just wanted to recap a little the Dreams of Dali. We had over 4,000 visitors in the experience, 34 public and private groups that we reached out to, 12 merchants participated in the discount program, and we collected 578 email contacts. And so I just want you to remember that for a second, because it becomes more important in just a moment. Of the survey results, you can see everything scored very high. 5 was the highest score, right? So the one that's most important to us, we're glad that they had a good experience and we're satisfied, but that 4.7, that they would come to downtown again, right? That was really the point and the purpose of this, is that we wanted people to want to come back to downtown Clearwater again. And here, if you remember back to those emails, by far word of mouth is still how people learn about things. What their perception of them is, if they're willing to try something, how they share their experience with other people. It's word of mouth. So for us, gathering those email contacts is really important, because that's how we establish a one-to-one relationship with somebody. If we can't meet with them in person, then it's our newsletter and direct emails. That's the way that we are building relationships with different members of the community. There's a technologist called Kevin Kelly, who's pretty famous, and he wrote that really any change that you need to make, you just need 1,000 true fans, right? So whether you're an artist or a business restaurant, you need 1,000 true fans, and if you can get to that number, then you will ripple effect out from that and get the change that you desire. So for us, that's kind of the number that I keep in mind, not necessarily 1,000 email addresses, but we know that as we're doing this work of community engagement and changing perception, that we really need to count on getting 1,000 true fans. So next steps, we had our arts and technology showcase. Thank you to the mayor who stopped by. We had over 100 attendees, and what I was really excited about with this event, beyond showcasing our partnership with USF and the augmented reality, is that we got to showcase the library, right? The CRA has an intergovernmental agreement for the makerspace here, and most people have no idea the kind of technology and studios that exist right here in this very building and how to interact with it. It is cutting edge, right? And it's something that is a benefit to this community and really helps with education at all ages and all levels. So we were happy to bring that out to the public, and we hope to be doing more events like that. So on to housing units. You have the first property owner food and drink grant agreement after this presentation for your consideration today. We have hired a new architect to move forward with the designs of the festival market space. So they're going to begin to prepare 3 designs, and our new assistant engineering director, Elliot Schoberg, who's a project manager for Streetscape Phase 3, we anticipate having those construction plans completed by the end of the year. The architect is working along with them so that as soon as those construction docs are ready and released for permitting, we can start constructing that. So I made a commitment that, it would start under construction this year. That's not going to happen, but it will be early next year. And a major challenge with this site, so people understand, is literally the roads like this, right? And when the road's like this and not like this, that leads to, in the simplest terms, severe water runoff issues. And we don't want to build walls up and steps up and hide the businesses along that road. We want to make sure that we're managing the topography in a way that everyone's safe and visible. So that's just a little more complicated than we thought. And then we're continuing negotiations, thank you, with Salty Bowl Brewery, and we'll be back to you guys hopefully in September with that development deal. And then finally, we continue to do our market research and have targeted pitches, doing a tour for some investors next week, right, building on the opportunity zone and available sites for investment. And to that point, we'll be releasing this week, I believe, the RFP for Fire Station 45 site for a tax credit housing project. And that's a very specified timeline because the state does its lottery for tax credit projects in November. So there's a lot of developers who are interested in that, and we think that'll be a good project. Are there any questions?
Questions on agenda item 4.1? Talk to us a second about the 1100 building, the Apex. When are they going to be ready for occupancy?
They were saying that they were going to be ready by the first part of September, late August, early September. And they're moving rapidly, but I don't have an exact date, but they have through October 30th for their grant.
Okay. Because originally they were going to be open even earlier than that, correct?
Yes, and when I talked with Mr. Jeb, he said that the labor market's very tight, so they'll start Monday with 200 employees, and by Friday it's down to 70.
Wow.
Which I was just kind of shocked. But whether they're getting other opportunities that are paying better or they decide to go to our beach, which is attractive.
And talk to us again about the Mercado and what our plans are there, because that's part of this overall strategy, right?
Absolutely it is. And right now, we have our highest number of businesses in the downtown gateway. Right, although there's code enforcement issues and the crime is getting much better there. It's actually a very vibrant community. So once we know what the streetscape will look like, right, where exactly the pipes are going, what the topography of that is, that's what we're working out right now with GAI consultants. Engineering subcontracted out the rest of those drawings so that they could get it done quickly. We've hired an architect to prepare 3 concepts that will align with that we're going to review internally, and then we're going to take that out to the public, right? And say, okay, which concept, would you prefer tracking along with that? We're working with housing and economic development to find the right partnerships. Whether that becomes a culinary kitchen that when they're doing the training at St. Vincent de Paul, then they can serve the food right at the Mercado or other businesses or programs. So we're working on those partnerships now. And then as soon as construction starts, that for the streetscape, that will happen as well. We're also, yeah.
Okay. Council, I had a conversation with one of our downtown business people who were complaining about the big planters that were on Cleveland Street and saying that it was prohibiting her from being able to get a tenant and sign a lease. And I spoke with Ms. Thompson. Ms. Thompson, do you want to give us just a little update on where we are, with that?
Sure. I've spoken with that owner. Well, let me back up and say this first. When you look at the downtown streetscape, with the exception of half of the 500 block on the north side, right, there are street trees. There's either very large palms or the smaller trees, I don't know if they're crepe myrtles, that have bigger planting beds. On that block, there are no trees at all. And it's my understanding that it was designed that way because there's a large overhang. So there was a conflict between the overhang and potential trees. So instead of trees, you have these planters, right? So they take up the same amount of space as a tree bed and the bed around it. But I talked with the owner and I said, please let me know, if you have a tenant, I'm happy to meet with the tenant if you want to show me the lease and we can talk about what it would mean to move or shift these. She declined to introduce the tenant or share tenant information and said she didn't want the city and the tenant to meet. So where I left it with her in our conversation was that we would find out what it would cost, right, to move things around. That's not our preference. We think the streetscape works the way it is, and once you do one thing for one person, then it kind of opens the door. But I remain open to meeting with her tenants. If it's truly preventing her from having a business, then obviously we're concerned about that. But we'll reiterate it's public sidewalk and public space.
But if a lease is presented, then, we would come back and revisit the question about how big those planters were. But to date, no lease has been presented, so it doesn't make any sense to move forward without having that lease. And hopefully she understood, that is understood.
And I would say with the incentive request form, if there's any property owner, right, with any business idea that aligns with our downtown plan, that you guys are excited about, we want to find a way to support, we're going to do that, right? We're not ever going to say no, right, to good ideas that we want to move forward. We'll find a way, right, to make it work.
Mr. Mayor, I had a question that
Okay.
I should have asked before you spoke, but and it's about the fire station RFP. Could you explain why you want housing there instead of making an RFP that is maybe more inclusive, that could include housing and or other ideas?
Sure. I think there's two reasons. One, if you look at our strategy, right, housing is very important, right? We're looking for sites to build housing. That's two reasons. One, we know that we need to provide more affordable housing in our community. Two, we know that housing provides for that 24/7 pedestrian activity that supports all of our local businesses. And we have a huge need for housing, right, in downtown. So for that, it aligns with our strategy. The second is that building would take a minimum of $1 million to rehabilitate just to come to some kind of use, right? You basically have to strip it down to the studs and rebuild everything. So in our market right now, it's not really economically feasible for it to have an office or retail use because it requires so much upfront investment. And if they came to the CRA for dollars, I think we would say, we've invested in food and drink, it's happening, it's coming to fruition, and now we really need to push up the housing so we can support all these restaurants that are coming in. And when we issued the letter of interest, right, for adaptive reuse, we received one response for a nonprofit arts center. Again, I love the arts. I don't think anyone would argue about that. But a nonprofit arts center is not going to support, right, our restaurants and retail. We really need housing.
Mr. Albrecht.
Tell us a little bit about I know you had some interest in the properties in the Mercado district, specifically the motel site for like an urban farming kind of thing. Is there any headway been made on that, or?
Sure, this is in the very early stages, but the former Economy Insight, where the community garden is now, a couple things have come together to bring this idea up. One, the community garden's done really, really well, right? I mean, the beds are full, they have plenty of people participating, right? And the surrounding properties have started to become renovated, and it's been a wonderful community engagement program, right? Really well run. Two, when we issued the RFP for housing on that site, we didn't get any responses. And part of what I heard was it's a weird transition between townhouses and multi-level, right? For the price that it is for the market, developers really think townhouses would be successful there. From my perspective, from a professional planning perspective, that's not dense enough to support what our retail and restaurants need. We need more than townhouses in that site. And then they're saying we're waiting for streetscape to come, right? So the market's a little soft for housing right there. So then the thought was, it could be used for an urban farm, right? And that's something that's not permanent vertical construction, right? If several years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, CRA said this really needs to be a housing site, it could be a housing site. Met with our environmental engineers, and currently, if we wanted to use that soil, it would require a lot of remediation. I have no idea what that would cost, but you could do planter beds on top of it and plant in pots. So at this point, I'm working with our sustainability coordinator to pull together cost and structure and what that could look like, and I'm hoping to bring that back to you guys as something in this next budget year. I know it's a little weird.
Yeah,
As I see the
don't
mayor's
know
face.
that I want to start a discussion on that now, but I've got to think that, other communities have been able to develop townhouses in their downtown core that have been very successful and led to that vibrancy that you're talking about. So I'm a little concerned when I'm hearing that we're not looking at doing that, but rather do, a community garden. Once you start that, it's going to be difficult for the trustees to say, hey, pick up your plots and move out, especially if it's going to be 4 or 5 years down the road. So I would caution us to, not get too excited about that, at least.
Well, I was just asking because I know it brought up before,
Yeah.
and I didn't know if anything was, how far we were along on that, so.
Whether it's, and so you are correct. By far, housing is the best long-term, mid-term, sustainable strategy for supporting a downtown. It is. And we are always going to be balancing that out between others, attractors and destinations, whether that's green space and parks and urban farms or, cultural facilities. One thing that people get very, very excited about urban farming, and even though I cannot grow things, this is way out of my wheelhouse, but I have seen the power, right, of urban farms and community gardens to bring vastly different groups together and help them care about a place. So because of that, because I do love eating at farm-to-table restaurants. If anything, that's my bias. So the thought of being able to use that as a tie-in to support ultimately a restaurant downtown with food that's grown downtown, I think that's very interesting, compelling idea. And finally, it's in our Green Points plan. So another thing that internally, it's important that we tie downtown into other parts of the city's work plans, right? So that it's more than just the CRA that's caring for downtown. So that's another thing that we're thinking about too. But I do hear you that once it's there and it's beloved, it's not going to go away.
If there was a Hallmark TV movie about that in St. Petersburg. Any other questions on 4.2? Okay. Do you have anything? Oh, yeah, on 4.1. We're now on to 4.2 then, Ms. Thompson.
Yes, approve a CRA loan to grant agreement for 412 Cleveland Street and supporting documents and authorize the appropriate officials to execute the same. If you will remember, you approved the full application for this food and drink grant on April 15th, 2019 in the amount of $238,110.41, and the property owners have signed the required agreement, so we're just looking for your approval so we can move forward with this grant.
Any questions of staff on 4.2? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 4.2? Motion?
Move approval of agenda item 4.2.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 4.2. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Thompson, do you have anything further for the CRA?
That is it for me. Thank you.
If not, we will adjourn the CRA. Mr. Albritton.
Got a question. How we doing on the other ones that I think next month it comes due, the extensions?
Yes, we have two very strong, viable tenants, one a brewery and one a sports bar and grill for the Station Square space and one of the Nolan spaces that I'm working with those agents right now. As I told you, I was looking to hire some commercial real estate brokers to help market the firms, and we reached out to 7 of them, and none of them were available or wanting to take the job. So I think the next tactic that we're switching to is we're just going to do a very heavy Facebook and social media campaign advertising the spaces. And then as we continue to, what I'm finding, again, this word of mouth, right, is these 2 tenants that came through now have actually come from, one from Thomas Wright on the Downtown Development Board, and other through word of mouth of tenants who considered it but weren't interested, but then recommended it to someone else that they knew. So we're gonna up the advertising and continue to follow up on our word of mouth leads.
Well, just to
Ms.
follow up,
Pogles.
the brewery site, is that the Nolan or would that be Station Square?
They are looking at both.
Okay.
So at this point, I mean, really, they're working together as a team, right? Because their spaces are so different that they're not really in competition. I mean, everyone that's coming through, I'm working with Pam Ryan and Renisa Johnson with the Nolan.
The Nolan space, I mean, just from personal observations, there's still no poured concrete slab in there.
Correct.
So from a brewery standpoint, where you have to have a lot of underground plumbing for drainage and piping, that to me seems like a better site, though very close to the MLK site for Salty Bull. Competition is a good thing in the brewery industry, by the way. So I hope they consider that, because the demolition and build out, which I took several breweries to the Station Square site, is pretty extensive to get them going. They've got to cut up quite a bit of slab, so,
Yeah, that's a great point. And it is true that breweries work better when they're clustered.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we have adjourned the CRA and reconvened the work session. Agenda item 3.1, Mr. Horn.
Amend Appendix A, Clearwater Code of Ordinances, Schedule of Fees, Rates and Charges, Section 24, Public Works Fees, Rates and Charges, 3C, Solid Waste Collection Rates, 3D, Recycling Rates, and 5, Solid Waste Roll-Off Container and Receptacle Service to increase specific collection fees for solid waste and recycling for the fiscal years 2020 through 2024, and pass the appropriate ordinance on first reading. Mr. Powers.
Good morning. David Powers, Controller for Solid Waste General Services. Earlier this year, Stantec Consulting Services performed a rate sufficiency analysis for the Solid Waste and Recycling Utility Enterprise Fund. The purpose of the study was to include an evaluation of the current rates, identify a new multi-year plan of increases that provide sufficient revenues and fund operations and maintenance costs, capital improvement costs, and adjustments to scenarios evaluated in the prior studies. The key challenges for the Solid Waste and Recycling Fund this year were that we had 6% annual increases on the Pinellas County landfill. Those rates went from $37.50 that they've been for years and years to $39.75. Those are rates that are built into our current budgets. We had a $540,000 increase in the personnel costs for the compensation and classification study. And then we also had the funding of the transfer station, of which we used $16 million of the reserves of solid waste in order to proceed with the building of that. Based on Stantec's study and analysis, there will be rate increases for the fiscal years 20 through 24 of 3.75% each fiscal year. And we've amended Appendix A of the Code of Ordinances to take care of those rate increases, and we suggest approval of that rate increase.
Questions for staff on 3.1? Mr. Kunda?
You didn't mention the increased costs of recycling, which I'm assuming there are. Does this have any input into the rate increase?
Yes, both funds are blended into the solid waste and recycling fund. Yes, there were significant increases within recycling that go into these rate increases as well, mostly with transportation.
Any other questions, council? Let's follow up on that recycling, because we're getting a lot of communities and a lot of media report about recycling and how it's not making any money and it's costing cities money and how the product is contaminated and all the difficulties that we're having. So walk us through again our new, is it simplified to 5 or 5 to 5 program and some of the challenges that we're faced with, because unfortunately our residents aren't doing exactly what they need to do to help us control those costs.
Contamination is definitely an issue. I think Mr. Gluster would like to speak to that.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Earl Gloucester, Director, Solid Waste General Services. Yes, sir. At the time, we're experiencing a lot of contamination being received from our residents in our recycling program. Right now, well, last year this time, we were right around 20 to 25% contamination. Right now, we're slightly lower than that, around the 15 to 17% range, as given to us by Waste Management, our recycling processor. So we've gotten a little better, but we still got a long way to go. We're still receiving a lot of stuff in our recycling program that simply shouldn't be there. So that's a battle that we continue to fight, and our Simplify to 5 was what we enacted earlier this year to help us with that, and we're still continuing to get that message out and continuing to try to do outreach and education for our citizens to help us get better numbers in our recycling program.
Remind us what we're not supposed to recycle.
What you're not supposed to do is put bagged recyclables into the container. Just drop the recyclables into the container. No plastic bags, please. No tanglers, no water hoses, no styrofoam. The things that are in our program, very simple, 5 things: glass, aluminum and steel cans, paper, and cardboard. That's it. Plastic bottles, that's it. Nothing else goes into our program. Nothing else our processor wants, because they want to be able to sell the product out on the open market. Anything other than that is simply garbage to them. So anything other than that, please place it in your black barrel, and we'll go with it. We'll deal with it on that side.
So the drop from 25% to 15% is actually pretty good, but the Chinese, which is a big market for recyclables, you know, their standard isn't even 15%.
No, their standard was 0.5%, which is nearly impossible to meet in our current environment. So that market is pretty much closed off to us. So there are other smaller international markets that our recyclables are being sold to, and also domestic consumption of the recyclables here in this country is starting to come back. So we will have markets in the future, but right now the market to China is pretty much closed off to us.
And even though this is costing us more money, would you agree that our sustainability coordinator would remind us it's still the right thing to do?
It most definitely is still the right thing to do. Turning these products back and making them into new products is absolutely the highest form of recycling and what we need to do to continue. But we need to do it in a sustainable way, which is eliminate the contamination from our program.
Great, thank you. This will be on our agenda for Wednesday night, and again, a reminder, our meeting will be on Wednesday, August the 14th. Agenda item 3.2.
Authorize surplus disposition of G 3669, G 3948, and G 3950 via auction to the highest bidder pursuant to Clearwater Code of Ordinances Section 2.622, surplus personal property, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Conzen.
Good morning, Perry Conzen, Fleet Manager. The 3 vehicles listed below have been brought before council for authorization to surplus. G3669 was totaled in an accident, and G3948 and G3950 require extensive engine repair due to a camshaft failure.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 3.2? Consent? Agenda item 4.1.
Approve a decrease of residential and commercial stormwater utility rates by 8.5% per equivalent residential unit, ERU, beginning October 1, 2019, and increases of residential and commercial stormwater utility rates by 0.5% ERU beginning October 1, 2020, and October 1, 2021, and pass the appropriate ordinance on first reading. Mr. Schoberg.
Good morning, I'm Elliot Schoberg, the Assistant Director for the Engineering Department. This year's study recommends a one-time rate decrease of 8.5% of 2019. This will reduce our rates to the 2012 level of $13.40 per ERU. This is mainly due to the regulatory requirements not being as significant as they anticipated, and spreading the implementation of the projects, the CIP projects, out over a period of time. With that, we'll have Stantec give you a presentation to talk about some of the details of it.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Leticia Duhalik. I'm here with Stantec Consulting. I'm here to just talk to you a little bit about the results of the stormwater revenue sufficiency analysis that we performed for the city. So historically, it's been the city's practice to adopt a multi-year rate plan. So in other words, you have typically adopted about 5 years of annual rate increases. And the current rate increases of 0.5% have actually been adopted for stormwaters through 2022. So for 2021 and 22, we're actually requesting an amendment to that current adopted ordinance, and we'll talk in a little bit more details in the next couple of slides. Historically, the city has also conducted these annual and biannual revenue sufficiency analysis, which help us address these changes in annual rate increases when they come to be. Which I already kind of touched on, but they validate, revise, and develop rate plans as needed, and they use our interactive modeling and decision support system. Just a quick overview of the support, the process is we basically take inputs such as historical financial data, customer demand forecast, capital plans, regulatory requirements, and we input all of those into our financial analysis and management system. And the model essentially spits out a financial management plan. The plan includes outputs such as revenues and operating cost forecasts, capital funding and new debt requirements, reserves and debt coverages, and key performance indicators, rate adjustment requirements, and customer impacts. Some of the key assumptions included in this stormwater study are that no grants will be received in the 10-year period. Your staff has been very diligent in actually securing grant in the past. So if staff does or is able to secure grant in the future, this is actually going to be a net benefit to the analysis that we currently have. The next key assumption is that we have assumed no sizable cost stemming from regulations. So again, if things change and costs come to be due to new regulations, the analysis would essentially have to be revisited to make sure that the analysis now includes those costs. And last but certainly not least, we have a early repayment of the 2014 series in 2020 and then the 2013 series in 2022. So this is a reduction to your overall annual debt service as you pay the debt off and quicker. The analysis has considered two strong key targets that we try to maintain. One is we want to make sure that the utility maintains at the very minimum 6 months of your O&M expenditures and a cash reserve. This is to assist with liquidity, and it also is indicative of financially strong utility based on criteria published by Standard & Poor's and Moody's, the rating agencies. The second target that we kept in mind as putting together this analysis, that maintenance of a debt service coverage that is at least 1.5 times your debt service. This is a measure of your cash flow and how strong it is to cover the debt you have outstanding. It's really a net income divided by your debt service, your annual debt service expense. So at a minimum, we want to maintain 1.5 times because that is, again, indicative of financially strong utility per the rating agencies. This fund is actually tracking a little higher than that, which we'll touch on in a little bit. But For the stormwater, we actually came up with two options for an annual, for adjustments to the current ordinance. So the first option would be you would reduce your rates by 1.5% in fiscal year 20, followed by annual rate adjustments of 0.5% in 21 and 22. We'd come back to you to talk about 23 when 22 came to be, but we're currently option one assumes that we would have 0.5% annually starting in 2021, annual increases to your rates. So the monthly bill would actually change $1.25 in fiscal year 20 to $13.40, as Elliot mentioned. The next option would be still a reduction of 8.5% in fiscal year 20, followed by two annual no rate increases in 21 and 22, with the possibility of having slightly higher rate increase in 23 and 24, which was the 1% versus the 0.5%. If you look at the total bill at fiscal year 2024, there's a difference of 1 penny. It's $13.68 and $13.67. So that's just to kind of give you an idea of the difference of the two options. If you remember, we looked in the prior study, in the prior slide at those key performance targets. The performance targets are pretty much in line with each other with whatever option you go with. And again, just to remind you, we're actually looking for an update to the current ordinance for fiscal years 20, 21, and 22, and then we'll get back on starting in 22. We'd come back to you with a new analysis, new study, and try to understand if the 0.5s and the 1% are still good, safe assumptions given changes. The other thing I wanted to point out here is with the reduction of 8.5%, this is where the stormwater, the city of Clearwater would kind of fall between surrounding communities. I've got a City of Tampa is actually City of Tampa has an annual assessment for stormwater, and they actually have a bill or a fee that is split between two portions: the improvement portion and the admin portion. The improvement portion is going up $10 and it's going up from $61 to $71 in 2020, then again to $82 in 2021. $85 in 2022. So the City of Tampa is actually moving. If we could speed this chart forward, City of Tampa is moving farther and farther into the top space. The City of Gulfport is having a $2.50 increase, which is equivalent to a 50.4% increase in fiscal year 20. And the City of Largo already has proposed 25% rate increases in 21 and 23. So some of these cities are really looking at fairly high rate increases and starting to move up this chart comparison. In summary, we recommend that you amend your current ordinance through fiscal year 2022 and that you choose either one of the options. As I mentioned before, either one, option one or option two, will give you 8.5% reduction to your rates in fiscal year 20, and they also ensure that you have enough reserves in the bank, as well as coverages that are actually above the 2.0, which is higher than that minimum of 1.5 that we discussed. We also recommend that you perform annual and biannual updates to this analysis as necessary, or to make changes to the financial plan as necessary as revenues and expense data change, economic conditions change, contractual services may change, and regulatory requirements may come into play that will affect the current financial plan. And I've got one last slide here. This would be the actual 2020 utility bill impact. So if I took all of the utility services that the city currently provides, they're all listed on the leftmost column of this chart. And if you sum up all of them for fiscal year 19, you get to a $101.55. Given the current rate increases or current rate adjustments that we just talked about for stormwater, the one that Earl talked about or David talked about for solid waste and recycling, and then the already approved water and sewer domestic annual changes, the actual bill in 2020 goes to $103.70. That's $2.15 difference and 2.12% increase. Any questions or comments?
Council, I think we've been criticized in the past because our rates have been a little higher than some of our other communities, but I think we can also say that because we've been able to address some of the issues that they may not have been able to address because of our rates. So I think we need to pat ourselves on the back and also, thank staff for its proactive work in this regard. When we had our one-on-ones, I don't know if y'all get as excited as I do with their little computers and how you give them a number and it just changes everything almost instantaneously. And it was during that process that I said, well, what happens if we don't do the 0.5 increase? Does it get us to the same place? And it basically does. And so I would hope that y'all would at least consider going with the option 2. It makes it a little easier for our our citizens. They will have 2 years of no increases based on the projections. And then in the third year, the increase that they would have of the 1% still, you said was a penny less. So actually, we end up at the same place and then we save the residents a penny, no big deal, but it's something to keep in mind that we have the rates would be constant for 2 years, and I think that's important for y'all to consider. Mr. Hamilton.
I mean, I think it's, we all had our one-on-ones and dropping 8.5% in one area is great. But you look at that chart and everybody says, look how expensive Clearwater is. Well, that chart in 2 years, Tampa's going to be above everybody. And it's because Tampa's finally, the light finally went off in Tampa that, or came on, I should say, just in Tampa that says we've got to upgrade and we've got to fix our stormwater system because look at all the rain we've been having lately and everything else. Their system can't handle the rain, just a normal Florida thunder shower in many areas. We've addressed that. We started addressing it almost 20 years ago, and we've gotten to today where we don't have major flooding problems during thunderstorms. We just don't. The only place we still have them, and it's a matter of physics, is out on the beach. If we have a heavy thunderstorm during a high tide, there's nowhere for the water to go. I mean, that's just, it is what it is. But, citywide, we have a great stormwater system. It's well maintained, and it's because we've asked our residents to participate in the program that keeps it, running efficiently. So I think these numbers are very, very conservative, and I'm happy with them. And I'm comfortable with your suggestion of the second option.
And let's also add, Mr. Hamilton, that we're not using, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Horn, but we're not using property tax dollars, whereas other communities have used property tax dollars to subsidize their stormwater. So, Mr. Albritton.
And I kind of will validate Mr. Hamilton's comments. I've always been a big supporter in infrastructure. Clearwater's always been very proactive in that, and I think if we stay the course, it'll be better in the long run for us. As you can see, these other cities are finally, the lights coming on, and they're going to have to spend more money to catch up. But I think what you said about keeping it flat, option 2 would be a good thing. So.
Okay. So can we just go ahead with option 2 for the resolution then that we would have on Wednesday? Okay. Thank you all very much for all your work. Appreciate that. Agenda item 4.2.
Approve the request from the owner of property addressed at 1572 Eunice Lane to vacate the 1.5 feet of a platted 30-foot drainage easement lying over that portion of property described in Official Records Book 10868, page 781, also being a portion of Lot 6, Brook Hill Terrace, as recorded in Plat Book 49, page 14 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, and pass the appropriate ordinance on first reading. Mr. Burzak.
Good morning, Council. Robert Burzak, Real Estate Coordinator. The property owners requested that the city vacate 1.5 feet of a 30-foot platted drainage easement along the rear of their property. Purpose of this vacation will be allow the homeowner's pool and deck screen enclosure not to encumber the easement. There are no utilities present within this easement. City staff have reviewed this vacation and have no objection.
Any questions on 4.2? We'll have it on our agenda Wednesday night. 4.3.
Approve the request from City of Clearwater to vacate the north portion of the 50-foot right-of-way of Meadowlark Lane, also known as Meadowlark Lane, in revised map, Town of Bayview, as recorded in Plat Book H6, page 23 of the Public Records of Hillsborough County, Florida, of which Pinellas County was once a part, lying south of Gulf to Bay Boulevard, State Road 60, and north of a line located parallel and 330 feet south of the east-west center line of Section 16, Township 29 South, Range 16 East, also being the center line of Gulf to Bay Boulevard, State Road 60, less the 25-foot wide portion previously vacated as recorded in Official Records Book 19332, page 1499 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, and pass the appropriate ordinance on first reading. What a mouthful. Mr. Berzak.
This right-of-way is not necessary for municipal use and is deemed to be in the best interest of the city and the general public that it be vacated. City staff recommends vacation of the right-of-way. Questions?
Questions on agenda item 4.3? If we vacate this one, who's going to get the property?
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
Half will be the budding property owners and half will be the Baby Park, which is city owns.
Which is the city, okay.
Correct.
Okay,
That was
yeah.
what I was going to ask.
On Wednesday night, then we will vote on that one. 4.4.
Accept a water line easement from FDC Clearwater SPE LLC for the construction, installation, and maintenance of city water lines on real property located at 1551 Lenore Circle, West Clearwater, and adopt the appropriate resolution. Mr. Berzak.
The water line easement grants the city rights to maintain water line facilities within the easement area. The city and engineering department recommends acceptance of the easement. Questions?
Any questions on 4.4?
And this is.
Mr. Cundiff.
Thank you. This is east of 19. and
Correct.
Just south of where nursery, I don't know what the name of that little place is, but I see where it is.
Yeah, this is,
North of Bel Air.
is this interior to the new apartment development
Correct.
that's on this?
Yeah, this is all the new water lines already installed.
Okay.
Clearwater K.
Yeah.
Any other questions, council? On Wednesday night, we will have the vote on that resolution. Agenda item 4.5.
Award a request for proposals number 29-19, aquatic sites invasive species maintenance to Aquatic Systems, Inc., of Pompano Beach, Florida, for the maintenance of city-owned lakes, ponds, wetlands, and mitigation sites in the annual not-to-exceed amount of $167,762 with 3 one-year extensions at the city's discretion, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Ms. Kessler.
Good morning, Mayor, council members. My name is Sarah Kessler, environmental specialist in the engineering department. Aquatic Systems outlined a comprehensive approach to addressing invasive species management in both their written proposal and their interview. Just as a reminder, removal of invasive plant species has a positive impact on native plant species, improves stormwater flows, and reduces flood risk. A recent study also showed that the removal of invasive plant species growing along the edge of water bodies can also improve biodiversity of aquatic organisms. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Questions for staff on 4.5?
He was ahead of me.
Does this
Mr. Hamilton.
contract include the Brazilian peppers and whatnot on the causeway itself?
It does not.
It does not. That would be a separate. This is for everything but the causeway?
This includes stormwater areas, stormwater ponds, our mitigation sites. So as far as Brazilian peppers on the causeway, those are usually Parks and Rec addresses those, and we help them with that process.
Because we cleared those out a couple of years ago, and they're back. So
Mr. Cundiff.
There are 49 of
Correct.
these locations, and the folks that we want to give that money to think that they can keep under that amount for,
Yes. This
Or this
used
is
to
a
be
multi-year
2
project?
contracts, but we just realized having one person do them, having one company do it all was easier than having multiple companies addressing all of the sites, more comprehensive approach to all of the sites. And so that's the way we chose to do it now. They're very confident that they will be able to execute this without any issues.
Any other questions, council? Brazilian peppers is one example. What are some other things that we ought to not be planting or having in our yards and whatever?
There's a whole list of things. This specifically addresses aquatic vegetation, so Brazilian peppers are often on the edge of things. Lake Chautauqua, we have an issue with cattails and melaleuca up there as well. And so generally when you see kind of a monoculture, like a whole bunch of the same plant in one area, that's generally not a good one to have adjacent.
Okay, and talk to us about mangroves for a second. What's the difference between mangroves? What can you do to mangroves that you know, and what can you not do to mangroves?
So without a permit from Pinellas County, you can do nothing to mangroves. So if you would like to trim your mangroves, you'll have to get a permit from Pinellas County, and there's a very specific time period where that permit is effective, and you will be able to trim 1/3 of the canopy of the mangroves. You cannot remove them, and you still have to maintain a canopy, but you would have an in-between area where you could have visibility in there by trimming 1/3 of your mangroves with the Pinellas County permit.
Thank you. Consent on agenda item 4.5. 4.6.
Accept an easement, an access easement from Doctors Curran and Falavi Patel, 2017 foundation from Global Understanding, Inc. for vehicular and pedestrian access rights across the easement premises to the adjacent city-owned property otherwise known as Cooper's Point, and adopt the appropriate resolution. Mr. Burzak. Again.
The property owners of Nova Southeastern University requested the city vacate Damascus Road right away on applicant's property. As a condition of ordinance 9202-18, the applicant was required to grant an alternate access easement to the city. City staff recommends acceptance of the access easement. Questions?
Questions on 4.6? On part of this, this is referred to as Damascus Road, but we had renamed that
Correct.
road, right?
It's
So
Dr.
does that
Crum
make
Patel.
a difference that need to get that corrected on the documents, or does it not matter?
I'll double check that. At the time of our agreement with them, it was still Damascus Road.
Okay.
But we'll double check.
Okay. And this will be on our agenda for Wednesday night. Okay? 4.7.
Approve the final plat for Union Place, physically located at 1625 Union Street. Mr. Mahoney.
Morning, Council. Tom Mahoney, Engineering Department. This is a 27-lot subdivision with single-family homes. This will have private streets, and they will be maintained by the Homeowners Association. The overall site consists of 4.88 acres, and this was approved through DRC on April 4th of 2019. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff on 4.7? Consent?
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hamilton.
I mean, are these basically like a fifth of an acre type residential lots, or?
They're roughly 50 by 120, 50 by 110.
50 foot of frontage?
Yes.
For a single-family home?
Yep.
So, and it's going to be a private gated,
They're not anticipating putting gates on it, but it will be a private street.
how does it become a private street without being gated?
They don't dedicate the right of way to the public.
Okay.
And they'll be responsible for asphalt.
That means they're responsible for maintenance of all the roadway?
Absolutely.
Everything, not from
Everything.
tax dollars?
Sewer, storm sewer, sanitary sewer. The only thing they won't have responsibility for will be the
They will
water.
assess the owners of the of the properties?
There'll be a homeowners association fee collected and maintained by the association.
Okay.
Tom, isn't that the status of Spring Lake, or it used to be that way?
Spring Lake originally was platted as a private street, and yeah, I believe no, it's still private. It still is.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yep. Yes.
But if they want to come back into the city at a later date, then they have to come up to city standards, correct?
Yeah, that would be the idea. Ideally, that would be the case.
Okay.
However,
Ms. Aiken?
is the right-of-way sufficient for a city street?
We
Would they meet our code?
on the plat, we got additional easement with to accommodate that 60 feet. So outside of the street, we have 13 additional feet on each side to create the 50 or 60 feet. I think it was 60.
I'm sorry?
I realized that was a good question.
So, I'm sorry?
No, I thought you were checking something.
Well, yeah, it was 60 feet overall.
Okay.
That would be with the easements included.
Okay. So if they want to come back at a later time and make it a city street, we would be, as long as it met our codes.
Feasibly, it could happen.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Consent? That'll be on consent then. 4.8,
Approve the final plat for towns at Spring Lake, physically located at 1895 Virginia.
Council, this will be a townhome subdivision. It will consist of 18 townhome lots on 3.6 acres. The townhomes will be two-story duplex-type structures. This was approved through DRC on August 2nd of 2018. You have to answer any questions.
any questions on 4.8? Should we assume the same questions that we asked on the other one in terms of the roadway?
They will be private, yes.
Okay.
So one question that kind of segues into the last one and this one, because same situation. So if they were to want to come into the city, we have the right of way, already 13 feet on each side, but then those folks, their properties, they would still be 50 foot wide, but they would no longer be 110 or 120 feet deep, because they're going to lose 13 feet. Some of those houses face the street, correct?
Correct. That's
So the
correct.
homeowner would then have to be, they're going to have to be a participant in this to get city services. They're going to dedicate some of their property in that easement.
Yeah, if in fact they did that, we would require dedication of the right of way to the public.
Yeah. So you could get a couple homeowners that are holdouts and say, no. So
It's
they
their
could,
problem.
they could be having their, yeah, okay.
Okay.
As long as they're aware of what's going on.
So that everybody's clear, and I think I am, this and the previous item, they're technically not in the city, but this exercise is for them to get city services such as sewer.
Well, yeah, they are in the city limits of Clearwater.
Okay, because I was gonna say, if they're not in the city, why
No.
is it even
No, they're,
coming to us?
yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely in the city. Yep, they're all annexed in. They just,
So then why aren't they having to build streets up to our,
How come we're allowing them to do this?
yeah, why aren't they building the streets up to our specifications if they're, developing in the city?
that's a process which goes through the planning and development. I process the plats and once they're approved through planning and development, the streets, the construction, it's all very good. It just may not be for the type of use we would construct them towards.
Saving money, is that what it's about for the developer?
I believe it's to maximize the buildable space on their site.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they get to live in a private
But again,
subdivision.
we don't maintain those roads.
Correct.
Okay, and, there are other, these aren't unique. There are other subdivisions in the area that have private streets.
Correct,
Yeah.
quite a few.
Yeah.
The latest large one was Majestic Oaks off of Union and west of McMullen Booth Road.
McMullen Booth, yeah,
There's quite a few.
yeah. Okay. So consent on 4.8?
Yes.
4.9,
Approve change order 1 to David Nelson Construction Company of Clearwater, Florida for the Seminole Street Boat Ramp, North Marina District improvements in the amount of $358,275.99 and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Mahoney again.
Morning, Council. This change order is to cover some unforeseen utility relocations and stormwater upgrades. There will also be additional pavement work necessary to obtain proper slopes and drainage. The seawall work was added on the western end after we had gotten clear title to the property. So that was intended to be part of the project, but we hadn't had a clear title yet. And currently, the project is ahead of schedule, and we should be starting to pave this week. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on 4.9, Mr. Albritton?
Okay, well, being a contractor, I kind of got into the details of the change order here.
Okay.
And it looks like there's, well, first of all, a big part of this was fill dirt, something to do with the stabilized soil going in. Was that a change of the parking structures?
No, it wasn't necessarily changed. What they had run into a lot was some clay when they were doing the excavation for the new parking lots. And
Okay.
that required a large amount of removal of existing soil, so we had to replace it with clean fill.
Okay, and then a big part of this, well, I mean, probably 20 items has to do with landscaping and then handrails, conduits to restrooms and things. Why is that added now and not in the original?
Well, the handrail came up because on one of the parking lots, it was required to have a gravity wall, and it was missed as far as the safety. Once they determined the height of the gravity wall, the handrail was for safety.
Okay.
That was a big part. We added some additional handrail down the edge of the seawall because we wanted to separate the actual physical ramp from the pedestrian promenade area. That wasn't really accounted for. And that's about it for the handrail.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Consent on 4.9?
Yep.
5.1.
Approve a recommendation by the Public Art and Design Board for the commission of a public art installation for the Morningside Recreation Complex located at 2400 Horn Boulevard as designed by Guy Kemper for a total cost of $36,052.50 and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Hubbard.
Good morning, Council. I am Christopher Hubbard, Cultural Affairs Coordinator for the city. This is an item that has been moving around for a little bit. The Morningside Recreation Complex, due to some shifting in the design of the glazing at the facility for the glass, necessitated looking at the positioning for the artwork and moving that from an external to the internal. The neighborhood associations for Morningside and Morningside Meadows were part of this discussion and coordinated with the artist, Mr. Guy Kemper, to design a new artwork placement for the facility. The wall that you see behind the artwork is a sort of a patterned concrete block wall. Was just done to sort of enhance instead of having a blank cinder block wall. This piece will actually be able to plug into that. It'll be mounted directly to the wall. It'll be a mosaic, which is actually Mr. Kemper's preferred medium. And it was done in a color combination that works within the color palette of the facility, but also references the pool area as which Morningside Recreation Complex is heavily utilized for. With that, I'll have any questions. I'm happy to answer them for you.
Questions for staff on 5.1? Mr. Hamilton.
Looking at are those like fluorescent lights in front of it, that are going to be suspended?
Those are existing. They're there at the site. They were part of the finishing for the building. So this piece, if you look at the top two, it'll be viewable from probably about the majority of the viewpoint, except directly head on to the artwork itself.
It's the angle of the photograph.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I guess I haven't really looked up that much.
Yeah.
the lighting there is maybe about 6 feet, but it's a very large atrium at which you could walk around and look at that. Additionally, those glass doors are into the gymnasium, and to the left of that is an external exit to the pool.
Got it. Okay.
Any other questions? Council, I cringe at this, and I'm going to take this off of consent. I remember our discussion that we had on the fire station and how we were going to have this beautiful piece of artwork that everybody was going to be able to see as they're going down Court Street. And I don't know that any of us can see it when you go down Court Street. I know when you go into the fire station, you almost miss it if you don't look up. And that was $100,000, I believe, or,
Yes.
yeah. And, you know, my thinking is that if it's going to be public art and we're requiring it, it ought to be visible to the public, you know, at all times. And we could have used that money to help finish, you know, the Veterans Memorial at Crest Lake Park and other, you know, projects like that, which would be much more visible. So I'm just not comfortable moving from an outdoor visible, because originally this was going to be outdoors.
It was originally slated to be outdoors. The designers of the facility had changed their glazing to the outdoors,
Yeah.
which would not make that feasible. When it came back to the Morningside residents, the representatives of the neighborhood association, they did not desire an outdoor placement for this site. They wanted something inside that their community would be able to see, that this area is heavily used by the community.
And let me remind you, Mr. Hubbard, that the community is all of the city of Clearwater.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So
I use this facility and I live
this is
in
coming
Clearwater.
off of consent. We will discuss it further on Wednesday night. Okay?
Thank you very much, sir.
Agenda item 6.1.
Declare surplus for the purpose of sale through request for proposals 48-19, real property located at the northwest corner of Grant Street and North Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, legally described as lots 6, 7, and 8, Block B, first addition to Norwood according to the map or plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 5, page 79 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, and real property located at 1415 Taft Avenue, legally described as Lot 16, Block 1, Lincoln Place addition to Clearwater, Florida, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 3, page 17 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, whereby the successful proposal meets the terms set by council. Chuck Lane.
Thank you, Chuck Lane, Economic Development and Housing Department. The purpose of this RFP is to donate this land for an affordable housing project. We have multiple organizations interested in this opportunity. There are two properties identified in the RFP. They're across the street from one another. The larger tract is 15,750 square feet, which is about 0.36 acres. It was acquired through foreclosure of a delinquent housing loan. The smaller parcel is about 3,500 square feet. It is ceded to the county due to non-payment of taxes, and the county deeded it to the city in 2001. The larger tract is located directly on MLK, North MLK, diagonally across from Cherry Harris Park. The smaller parcel is located on the south side of Grant Street on the back side of the block opposite North MLK Avenue. Both properties are identified in the city's list of properties that are available for affordable housing. Council approved that list by resolution earlier this year. The RFP is written with the larger tract being the developable site, with the smaller parcel possibly contributing to added densities, perhaps stormwater retention options. There's also an opportunity for a proposal to include additional lands, which would, of course, increase the scope of the project. Allowable density for the property identified in the RFP is 4 units. There is adjacent privately owned land that could be added to the project, adding an additional 5 to 6 units. This is an opportunity to facilitate new construction in the North Greenwood neighborhood, and also to create and preserve units that will be available at affordable prices. Questions, please.
Any questions for staff on agenda item 6.1? It'll be on our agenda then for Wednesday night. 7.1.
Declare approximately 85,000 square feet of used artificial turf and 38,000 pounds of rubber surplus to the needs of the city, and donate to Pinellas County School Board in accordance with Code of Ordinances Section 2.621, sale of surplus property, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Lockwood.
Good morning, Mike Lockwood, Assistant Director for the Parks and Recreation Department. We're looking for your approval to declare the old artificial raised turf and infield as surplus so we can donate it to Pinellas County School System. The city did receive this turf from the Rays back in 2018 and intended to use it for the Jack Russell Stadium. After researching the product in greater detail and talking to some of the vendors, we found it to be more beneficial to install new turf at this site. With that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 7.1? So we paid the Rays $15,000 for this, and now we're not going to be able to use it, so we're donating it to the school board.
Yes, sir.
So why don't we go to the Rays and ask them to give us the $15,000 back and have them donated to the school board?
Mayor Kevin Dunbar, Director of Parks and Recreation. We actually didn't pay the Rays. The Rays donated the turf, but we had to have the turf moved from Tropicana Field to Clearwater. So that was what the $15,000 was for.
Right, but the Rays,
Well, they didn't pay to move it. We accepted
But
it,
they-
and that was kind of part of the deal, so that was our piece. What we learned when we went to have it installed, that it was actually more cost-effective to have the new turf installed versus having the old turf put in, so we actually saved money there. And so now we have all this leftover turf that we don't really have a need for, which Pinellas County Schools does. They will have to then come and get it, and whatever their cost is going to be to move it.
again, I'm not objecting to donating it to the school board. I'm objecting to having had to pay $15,000 for something that we're not using.
Right.
That we should have known we weren't going to be able to use it before we paid $15,000 to move it here.
Right, and at the time, the vendor that we were using to give us guidance felt that this would be something that they could install and it would be a good rate. We actually went out to RFP, we found out that we actually could save money by just having AstroTurf, install a new turf. Now, I hear what you're saying, but that was kind of the sequence of events.
So you're telling me I have to hold my nose and approve this?
Did the savings equal 15,000?
Oh, more than that, was a couple $100,000.
Really?
Yeah.
Say that again?
It was a couple $100,000. It starts getting into the way the turf is designed. There's crushed rubber that's inside of it. All that, there's a process to remove all that and everything, and that is very labor intensive. And so that was where it ultimately became just a lot more expensive to put the existing turf in. We were able to do the AstroTurf that we have within the budget that we allowed for the install.
Okay.
It was all part of the agenda item. We brought that forward, back before. So this is just, we have this turf and the county school system would like it.
All
This
right.
is part of our process.
Consent? 7.2.
Award request for proposals 33-19, food and beverage concession services to Kenny's Kitchen LLC for concession services at A.D.C. Moore Softball Complex for the period August 19 through July 2022, with the option of 1 3-year renewal term, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Lockwood again.
Good morning, Mike Lockwood, Assistant Director for the Parks and Recreation Department. In front of you this morning is a food and beverage concession service contract. This service contract will be to Kenny's Kitchen. Kenny's Kitchen has been a partner of ours for about 20 years now, and it provided services at the Eddie Seymour complex. They've been very flexible in working with our staff and allowing us to provide concession food and beverage to those who are looking for it at a very affordable rate and price. For this opportunity, the Kenny's Kitchen will be paying us a monthly rate along with an annual percentage based on their income. Even though this contract focuses a lot at the Eddie Seymour complexes, Kenny's Kitchen is committed to providing concessions at our other sites as well as our recreation centers if staff chooses to do so. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions on 7.2? Mr. Kunda?
Did we do an RFP on?
Yes, sir. We had 2 respondents. This one was the only one that was accepted.
And there were no local companies, perhaps in the North Greenwood area that?
There were 2, but only one was responded to the complete RFP.
Any other questions? Consent?
Yep.
8.1.
Approve an agreement between Pinellas County and City of Clearwater to provide emergency medical services, ALS, first responder services to the Clearwater Fire District and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Chief Ellers.
Good morning, Mayor, Council, Scott Elders, Fire Chief, Clearwater Fire Rescue. This request is to approve the agreement between Pinellas County and the City of Clearwater to provide emergency medical services, or the first responder program that we do for the Clearwater Fire District. Through this contract, Clearwater Fire Rescue will provide advanced life support services to the residents of the City of Clearwater and to individuals within the unincorporated area of Pinellas County that is located within our district. This contract provides a reimbursement of fire medics on engine companies and rescue units, EMS coordinator positions, and projected capital as outlined in Appendix A. For fiscal year 1920, the annual compensation is about $6.4 million. The initial term of this agreement shall be for 5 years, commencing in 2019 and ending in 2024. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions of the chief on agenda item 8.1? Chief, how does this correspond with our response times and then the agreements with Sunstar on?
Great question, sir. This is the overall contract, and then the supplemental contract that we talked about, the growth management contract that we talked about a month ago.
Yeah, a couple.
Yes, that comes from this as well. But again, as reported the last time, we continue to look at ways to help maintain these ALS units for those really critical patients, and also try and curb some of that increased responses that we're seeing over and over.
Mr. Albert.
How many of these unincorporated fire districts we have within our area?
Well, there's 24 that they contract with. Unincorporated area for us, are you?
I mean, in the fire districts in our area. In other words, what this is related to here.
So for us in the unincorporated area are places like On Top of the World and some of this other stuff. Yeah. Then you have unincorporated fire districts like East Lake. That's separate than what we provide. So that's like East Lake Fire District, Palm Harbor Fire District, that type of stuff throughout the county. But the areas that we predominantly have are those that are not annexed into the city. The biggest chunk of that is On Top of the World area.
That's what I was thinking, top
Yes,
of the
sir.
world, yeah.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people think that that's Clearwater, and it's not.
That's correct.
The residents of Top of the World think they're in Clearwater.
And that's on purpose too, if I remember correctly. The developer of Top of the World wanted to remain unincorporated. And even if the residents want to come in, I'm not sure that they can based on their deed restrictions or whatever, Consent on 8.1?
Yes.
8.2.
Approve the Fire Protection Services Agreement between Pinellas County Fire Protection Authority and City of Clearwater for a 5-year term extending through September 30, 2024, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Elders, Chief Elders again.
Again, Scott Elders, Fire Chief, Clearwater Fire Rescue. Again, this is sort of the companion one for the fire side for the county. This request is to approve the Fire Protection Agreement. Through this contract, Clearwater Fire Rescue will provide fire suppression services, investigation of fires, inspection of commercial, and plans review to the residents of the City of Clearwater and to individuals within the unincorporated areas we talked about earlier of Pinellas County that is located within our fire control district. Pinellas County Fire Protection Authority will continue to compensate Clearwater Fire Rescue for the fiscal year commencing October 2019 under the same terms as previous contracts. Under this 5-year contract, 11.31% of Clearwater Fire District was determined to be unincorporated Pinellas County. Therefore, the county reimburses us at that rate for our budget, which nets about approximately $2 million for fiscal year 2019. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the chief on 8.2? Mr. Hamilton.
I'm trying to figure, why do we have to have separate agreements here? Why can't it be one agreement? I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, you're going to provide emergency medical services and fire suppression regardless. I mean, why does it have to be separate agreements? Do we have separate entities that reimburse? Is it just more layers of government to be involved, or what is it? I don't
You know, that's a great question. I've had that same question when we meet at the county. I do know that you have two different funding components. So you have the EMS tax, and then you have the fire authority tax. And at one time, this is my opinion, at one time, there was a clear delineation between EMS and fire. But over the years, it's sort of melded into one. We are fire, we are EMS. And I think at some point in the future, I would hope to think that that would be the avenue we go towards.
The same staff handles both items. It's just that they're treated separately. That's the county's approach.
Okay.
Questions on, consent on 8.2? 9.1.
Presentation of the 2019 Spring Break Free Park and Ride Program. Mr. Hartman.
Good morning, Mayor, Council. Here to present an update on the 2019 Spring Break Program. And all right, don't want to start with questions.
Good idea.
Thanks. So this is a program that we basically wanted to provide free park and ride service from downtown to Clearwater Beach. We had multiple partners, including both chambers of commerce, as well as our transportation partners, PSTA and the Clearwater Ferry and Jolly Trolley, to help us take care of that business. It ran for approximately 8 weeks, March 1st, April 30th this year. And from the ferry and the PSTA numbers combined, there were over 54,000 trips. That's not cars, but that's people taking the bus or the ferry, the trolley or the ferry to the beach or coming back. And so it's quite a number. The PSTA program this year, we had the free park and ride down at City Hall, and also we had the 2 board and ride free locations at the Marina Stop, which was new this year, as well as at the north of the Causeway Transit Center that's down there. One of the great things about that was that there were no tickets involved or anything. If you got on in one of those locations, you rode for free. There were sidewalk directional decals downtown and out at the Marina area. And then there was social media that was done by PSTA, as well as working in partnerships with businesses on both sides of the bay. Clearwater Ferry this year was able to add a ferry during March for high traffic weekends, and then 2 ferries to supplement service, the same as the Jolly Trolley, kind of like plug-ins. But they knew they needed more ferries to provide greater ridership and avoid delays. City program was increased in funding for this year. We also funded the extra ferry service, was $10,000. The event was shortened from 10 weeks to 8 weeks, but the Sugar Sands Festival expanded from 2 weekends to 3 weekends. So there was an increased need during a shorter time period. Because of the Harbor View demolition, we had to not allow or not provide service down by the waterfront as we had in the previous years. And then we added the directional signage. That was one of the great things this year. We took PSTA signs, which were basically directional signs to get to the parking areas, the free parking areas, and we had fixed those to our traffic directional signage. So they were part of the traffic control device signage. I love this photo. We had this 3D art at the parklet. This was a great event. We had a weekend. People came out, a lot of kids, and painted the City Hall parking area. And it worked well with the CRA Dolly exhibit and such. And we also provided some benches and seating in the shade underneath the trees for people while they were waiting. So it was a really successful program. As I said, we added a new Marina Stop, and this was relocated away from the front of the building in order to avoid some of the backup congestion and the crowd control type of interactions with vehicles, and that worked extremely well from what all the parties have told me and from what I saw out there. PSTA ridership increased by 23% overall, but by 56% on a per week basis because it was in a condensed time frame this year. One of the things I found interesting is a third of the riders of the trolley were from out of state, according to the ridership surveys they took. And signage, when they filled out the survey form, signage was overwhelmingly the primary way that they found their way to the park and ride facility. So that's something to keep in mind moving forward, if we move forward. Ferry ridership also had a large increase, 25% overall increase. And I think a lot of that can be contributed to the increased ferry on the busiest weekends. A couple of ideas from the partners. There was a focus group of all the partners that the chamber, the regional chamber, held, and we all got together in a room and talked about what worked, what didn't work, and what could be done to improve it. A couple of the key issues, especially for the city, is that we have a single unified sign plan and that we have a parking plan where people will in advance know where they can park, especially in light of what's going to be forthcoming with construction and part of the parking lot or all of it that might be closed due to construction staging and things of that. Want to look at a Pier 60 stop because people are getting off the bus and they're going like, how do I get to Pier 60? And part of that would be adding volunteers and ambassadors at the stop to help direct people to not only to the beach or to the Sugar Sands Festival, but to specific businesses as well. How do I get to Bob Heilman's or things of that sort. So those are some of the suggestions that came out of the focus group that the chamber put together after the event. We have members from the ferry and from PSTA here if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer any questions as well.
Questions for staff on 9.1? Okay.
Well,
All right, Mr. Allen.
I mean, I think the program is very beneficial, very successful. The overall numbers, you can, I mean, the average daily traffic count out to the beach, I think, during spring break is somewhere between, I don't know, 25 and 30,000 cars a day, maybe somewhere in that neighborhood. So I'm not sure how much overall effect it's having on traffic as much as it's creating a great opportunity. And I think what most people are taking advantage of is the fact that you park for free, which if you get out to the beach and can find a parking space, you're going to pay $15 to $20 to park out there. So you're parking for free and you get your transportation over to the beach and back is for free. I mean, it's a great program. And I think as the word gets out, more and more people realize that economic savings by utilizing this program, the numbers will continue to grow. Not totally related to this, but I want to bring it up. With the new traffic pattern at the marina, you can no longer, once you've gone through, left the roundabout and you're leaving the beach, you can no longer turn right into the marina. Personal experience is people that know now they can't make that turn. They're going to that first break on the causeway between the island, between the beach and Island Estates to make a U-turn. And most people, when they go to make that U-turn, they don't get their tail end totally out of the left lane of traffic, and it creates, some conflict as well as near misses and maybe a couple rear end collisions. I'm wondering if there's a way for us to address that first opening and block it off, maybe, tear up the asphalt, landscape it all the way through, and force the people to the light at Island Estates, and they can turn left into Island Estates and make a turn, turn around at Island Estates to go back to the beach. I'm wondering from a safety standpoint if that's something we want to consider, but that's just, experience of leaving the beach on a regular basis and seeing that happening, just something to bring forward and to consider.
We'll check it out.
I thought you were saying to reopen the right turn lane into the
Well,
marina.
if you're not going to reopen the right turn lane into
Well,
it.
I mean, it's to deconflict and not have as much congestion. I think we've come up with a good compromise on being able to use that area. But we've got our police chief and deputy chief in the back. They can give us a line. I think, I don't see why it can't be done.
Right.
We'll just need to deal with some irate customers.
And it may be just because people are used to it and they, maybe that won't be a problem, giving them another
Yeah,
6 months or so.
Yeah, if you change it next year, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions, Council? I'm glad to have noticed here that we're going to take off the decals right away because it was a little embarrassing a month or 2 months after to see them on Garden Street directing me to the trolley that wasn't free anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. Explain the suggestion about a stop at Pier 60. What does that entail?
Well, that was just.
Because right now they get dropped off at the transit stop on just after you enter the beach,
Yes.
right?
Yes, the North Transit stop, and it would just be an additional stop for people who were directly going to Pier 60. There's a pullout area, but we'd have to, we haven't looked at it in detail as to what would be required, what other services are using that stop for conflicts and such, but it was just a suggestion.
Okay, because I'm just trying to see how that Pier 60 spot where you have the area, it's after you exit the roundabout, so then the trolley would have to go into the pier, would have to go, how does the trolley get back onto the causeway? Because he's already going south on Coronado at that point.
Right, and that would be part of, we had looked at, like, on the returning trolleys, about a southern street to come back around as such. That was just some preliminary investigations, but again, this is just providing you with feedback from the riders themselves.
Okay. All right. Any other questions then, Council? Did the partners have anything? I see Cassandra Borges here from PSTA. Don't feel like you have to,
They were here just in case you
Right.
had questions.
And the ferries in the back, y'all okay? All right. Moving on to 10.1 then. Thank y'all.
Authorize a blanket purchase order to Huber Technology, Inc. of Huntersville, North Carolina for the purchase of bar screen replacement parts and services in the annual not to exceed amount of $100,000 with option for 2 one-year term extensions pursuant to Clearwater Code of Ordinances, Section 2.564, exceptions to bidding, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Porter.
Good morning, David Porter, Public Utilities Director. This morning I'd like to ask your approval to issue a purchase order to Huber Technologies for components, parts, and services that we use to maintain the bar screens at the wastewater treatment plants. Bar screens are the devices that intercept the wastewater when it first enters the plant and removes things like rocks and sticks and stones and logs or whatever else gets in the sewer system that could damage other components in the treatment plant. So it's an essential part of our operations.
Any questions of staff on 10.1? Consent?
Yep.
10.2.
Authorize the award of invitation to bid 34-19 Biosolids Management Services to T. Wayne Hill Trucking, Inc. of Bartow, Florida, in the annual not to exceed amount of $590,000 with 2 one-year extensions at the city's discretion, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Porter again.
And David Porter, Public Utilities Director. Again, I ask for your authorization to issue a purchase order, in this time to T. Wayne Hill Trucking Incorporated of Bartow, Florida, so that they can provide us with the services we need to dispose of and transport biosolids, which are generated at each of our wastewater treatment facilities. As you know, we Part of the process we have generates a residual product that needs to be beneficially used, and biosolids are trucked to farmers' lands, other parts of Florida where it's used in place of fertilizer.
Any questions on 10.2? Consent?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
11.1. Ms. Aiken.
Request authority to settle case of Milagros Medina versus City of Clearwater. Mr. Ho.
Richard Hall, Assistant City Attorney. Mayor, members of council, in this item, we're seeking authority to settle a lawsuit brought against the city by Mrs. Medina for injuries she received when she was driving down MLK and one of our trees fell in her car. So we're asking for the authority to settle this claim for $180,000.
Questions for staff on 11.1? And this money will come from
The Central Insurance Fund.
consent?
Yep.
Council, let's do 12.1 and then we'll take our recess because we're not going to finish by 11.
Declare miscellaneous furniture, minor equipment, and fixtures surplus to the needs of the city for disposition in accordance with Clearwater Code of Ordinances 2.62121, sale of surplus personal property, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Ms. Benj.
Thank you, Mr. Hearn. Good morning, Mayor, Council. I'm Alice Benj, City's Purchasing Manager. I'm requesting council authorization to proceed with surplus disposition at City Hall and the Clearwater Gas Complex. Surplus consists primarily of desks, chairs, small appliances, bookcases, items, miscellaneous items, and some systems furniture. In the past few months, we have repurposed many pieces of furniture from City Hall, and for funding information, proceeds from auction are returned to the general fund and the gas enterprise fund respectively.
Any questions on 12.1? Consent?
Thank you.
Very good. Council, we'll take a recess because I don't think we'll finish the Imagine Clearwater discussion in 9 minutes, and we'll reconvene at 11 o'clock. reconvene the work session of August the 12th with the reminder that our meeting will be on Wednesday, August the 14th this week at 6 o'clock. Next order of business is agenda item 12.2. Mr. Horn.
Yes, Mayor, we have an Imagine Clearwater update from Mr. Delk.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, this will be very brief. I don't have a formal presentation today. I want to just kind of go over with you what we've done the last few weeks. Quick update, the library's moving forward. I think you're aware we've got Williamson DeCars working through Stantec to do the design construction drawings for that. Stantec is getting well underway on their construction permit drawings for the park. We have been talking to them about meeting here in the next week or two to go over the architecture. I think they've been doing some more detailed drawings for that. So we're going to meet with them and go over the architecture, similar to what we discussed with you earlier, looking at the stage facility as a centerpiece, an iconic piece of architectural design, and then trying to incorporate the other items that you've talked about in a way that would complement the key structure. We're also looking at some of the other structures in the park, really with the idea of having a common theme. Our consultant did some initial work with FDOT District 7 on the bridge. We've got a very clear pathway on the permitting process for the bridge. So the next thing that needs to happen here is that we will prepare for you an agenda item. We need to include some concepts for how the bridge lighting will occur, kind of an approach standard to that. We'll get your authorization for that program of artistically lighting the bridge, and then we take that to DOT District 7 and make a formal application to their approval and culminating in an agreement with District 7 for the use of their facility for decorative lighting. I think some of you all saw possibly recently in the paper, they're doing something similar with Sunshine Skyway Bridge. So the pathway ahead should be clear for us. And what we've talked internally is then that we can, at the very latest, at least plan in the next budget year for the funding, if you want to do that, move forward with the construction of the lighting of the bridge. So DOT tells us it's around 6, 7, 8, 9 months to go through their permitting process for this. So it will be what that is. My objective is to, what we can control, which is getting this matter before you and getting it to where we can, if you're comfortable, getting it to where we can apply for DOT for the permits. And so then we'll go from there. Probably the main focus the last week or two, couple of weeks, has been the activation of the park. We're working on that. I'm planning on bringing this matter to you in a much more formal and public way on September 3rd. So I have, now that Bill is back, I'm going to talk to Bill about kind of what some of our thinking on that activation component is. And if Bill is comfortable with that, then I'm planning on having at our individual conversations this week, starting to kind of fill you in on kind of what those ideas are. I think, we can envision, we've got a very creative group of support staff in the department and the city, and I'm trying to bring them into the process so that they can provide review and input for us. Now's the time where we have to get information and details to Stantec so that we can make this project uniquely Clearwater. And so with that in mind, I've had some conversations with the Parks Department, our sustainability coordinator, Chris Hubbard, Arts, and Sister City. I think there's a Sister City opportunity there. We'll be talking to Clearwater Gas. I think we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that information technology can be a form of activation of our park. So we want to get ideas from across the board of our city staff. We want to route them to the city manager's office, myself, and then get them to Mr. Kurtz in engineering, who's really managing the Stantec process for us, and really make this a uniquely Clearwater project and supporting them. So because of the Stantec is underway designing drawings right now, we have no time to tarry with regard to getting this internal analysis and feedback done to Stantec. So we're going to be talking to you about that probably individually this week, once I get a chance to brief Bill on kind of what we're thinking, and then I plan on bringing this back for a much more public discussion as we fill in more of the gaps between now and September 3rd. That's pretty much it. I attended a couple of downtown business community meetings last week. That was a very eye-opening experience for me. I trust that maybe it was somewhat eye-opening for them as well. I hear some of the concerns that they have, although frankly, I will confess not understanding all of them. I think, one thing I will say about that is that the library is not consuming any priority from anything else. It's simply a component of the park that's ready to proceed. It's that simple. So we're not delaying anything. We're not supplanting anything. We're not choosing one thing over another thing. And we're just moving forward. To do otherwise, there'd be no real benefit to us. The last point I'll make is that our consultant team from HRNA will be here the week of the 19th of this month. We're going to be talking to them very quickly about how we prepare for and market the opportunities along the bluff that we have. And that does in fact include some of our or current assets there, including the City Hall site. So you're getting a lot of pushback, I think, from people that want it torn down now. Someone asked me for a date, which really would be of no consequence whatsoever to me to throw out a date. What I would answer to those folks who are concerned about that is that we will tear the building down whenever it becomes at our benefit to do so. We can tear it down then immediately, as long as it's to our benefit. Until then, we're going to evaluate what that asset may mean to us, and we're going to market our bluff properties. So you're going to see a whole host of things coming forward here in the near future with regard to really what I would say doubling down on our efforts and further raising the bar in terms of what opportunity we have at the park. So, and that's what we'll be talking to you about over the next several days. So that's it for today. We're gonna gear up for September 3rd.
Any questions, council? Mr. Progler.
Thank you, Mayor. Question and a comment. First of all, this is really the first time I've heard some exciting talk about taking some of that talent in city staff and engaging all of our different departments, and how do we activate and incorporate what you do best into that park and make it I think that's important. I'm glad those conversations are going on. One thing, the RFP for the Harborview site, I think we had talked about 6 months, something like that. When HRNA comes August the 19th, is that going to be part of the scope, part of the focus, or can you give me an update on that?
Yeah, I have to go look back at the time. I think we're more or less planning on being done with them in 6 months. We're going to have an RFP on the street much sooner than that. I expect that, from what my understanding is from HRNA, the Wanamaker Jensen folks are going to be ready to show us some renderings and some representations of some of these parcels. They're working on them right now with HRNA, so that'll occur towards the end of this month. So, we're going to be working through and with the city attorney's office and HRNA and the Wanamaker Jensen folks to start developing an RFP. So
we'll get some options.
We're trying to, yes,
with
we'll
that
have some
site,
options.
whether it's boutique hotel apartments, they're going to come back with.
Yep, it may be 2 or 3 different scenarios. These are not etched in stone, but, it's just, I would point out to our friends in Tampa, they established a very clear vision of the kinds of things that they wanted to achieve. And we're going to do the same thing and make sure that our opportunity, we have a lot of opportunity in our asset properties down here. So we want to make sure that the world can see what that opportunity is and also the ability to share our vision for it. It's a substantial vision, so we want to be able to market that.
And the last question would be directed to, and refresh my memory, Chris Hubbard had given me a presentation on conceptual possible artwork. which I would agree with the mayor earlier today. Artwork should be public and it should be exposed from this point on. I think we learned our lesson at the fire station. But that being said, I was real excited to see at least one option for artwork in that park. He's one of the most renowned metal sculptors, I think, probably in the world, not in the state of Florida. That was for Coachman Park, was it not, Mr. Hubbard? It was the metal sculpture by the artist. He does colored metal.
Oh, you're talking about the love statue that I had been talking about?
That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Or are you talking about Schwartz that does?
Yeah, Schwartz. Where was that? Is that piece going to be considered for?
No, that was for Japan.
That's right. That was a sister city. Thank you. Will it also be good in Coachman Park since he does aquatic kind
Well, but that's my love statue. Don't take away my love statue.
Okay. It was a beautiful piece. That was a nice way to suggest that you go to Coachman Park as well. Okay.
Well, we have some extremely creative people. I am excited when I talk to them and hear the ideas, and we're building on that.
Yeah.
I don't think there will be any question about the artistic value of this property when we're done. So I'm excited to be able to chat with you about those things.
Good, thank you.
Let's clarify so that, no one's confused about what we were talking about. When the gateway was first introduced, I had suggested that because it was so popular in Philadelphia, the love statue, to use something like that to be iconic for the Coachman Park Gateway project here, so that it would be, I love Clearwater downtown, get all the people from the beach to come and take that photograph. It has since morphed that, if you don't do the love thing, this fellow Schwartz that did the Krabby Bills thing, maybe something that would be available that we could consider. It may be a lesser cost. It probably would not be as international as the love, artwork, but it would be something unique to Clearwater.
And I don't know that we limit ourselves to one piece. It's a pretty huge
Well,
site.
yeah, but this was the
Right,
focal point. Yeah. Any other questions, council? So, okay, I'm going to follow up with you a second, Mr. Poglace, because the question on the library keeps coming up. And if I remember correctly, even during our CRA discussion earlier today, it was pointed out to us that library uses have changed. And activating the library is a key component. And I'm going to remind ourselves of what I had mentioned at our last meeting, that the Largo Library, I was there for a Suncoast League of Cities meeting, and it was an active place. The park and the library fed off of each other. And those people who are questioning what we're doing with the library are missing a key part of what this is all about. And maybe we need to do a better job of reminding them that, don't look at the library just as a standalone building. It is part of the park, and other communities have done a good job in incorporating library usage with park usage. And that's what all of this Imagine Clearwater is. It's not looking at individual parcels working independently, but rather the whole park working together to benefit the entire area. And I think we need to maybe on ourselves do a better job of explaining that. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting frustrated in hearing that all we want to do is tear things down. Well, let's start building things, because the community is waiting for something to be developed at Coachman Park. And we're getting mail saying, oh, I really like the view with no Harborview Center. Let's not do anything with Harborview Center. And the longer it takes us to come up with the plan for that Gateway Plaza, the more difficult it's going to be, because people are going to get accustomed to seeing that nice view, forgetting what we're anticipating doing to enhance even the view that we've got now. So, Mr. Delk, thank you for driving this. It's unfortunate that we've let all this time go by, but keep your foot on the pedal for all of us.
We're going to raise the bar some more. We'll be chatting with you about that.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Ms. Aiken, do you have anything further for us?
No, sir.
Mr. Albritton?
Okay, I've had some concerns with some of the residents in Clearwater over these 5G small cell tower technology. As you know, 5G is coming in, and Clearwater, the municipalities are kind of out of the loop on this. The state has mandated that these new towers can be installed anywhere in the right-of-ways that they consider they need to be. They need to be, you're seeing more of them because 5G requires more towers than where we are now. And I've had a lot of people ask me or call me about, what are the health risks with 5G? It's more of a microwave kind of technology, and I've researched it a little bit, and there's like two sides of it. So I thought it would be good for the city of Clearwater to do a resolution that just states, we don't know what the health concerns are. The federal government aren't printing any health concerns on it. And so I asked the city attorney to modify a resolution that other cities have been signing, and I wanted to, if you all have seen it in your packet, it's just a resolution saying that 5G towers are being installed. We really don't know what the health risks because the government is not telling us what it is. And we'd like them to tell us, be more clear about, the health risks for the 5G towers. So it doesn't say any more than that. It just puts it out there that we have concerns. And I wanted to bring that forward to council to discuss it.
Okay. I'm going to jump in, Mr. Albritton, because first off, I want to ask the city attorney, did we prepare this resolution?
All I did was modify the signature page and change the jurisdiction that it was to Clearwater.
Okay. This resolution was prepared by a group called Stop 5G. It is inconsistent with how we do resolutions. It is so one-sided. It's almost embarrassing, in my opinion, for the city to take a position of adopting this resolution. If we were to adopt every resolution or issue a proclamation for every individual that comes before us, we probably would spend half of our meetings doing proclamations and resolutions. The federal government has said, the National Cancer Institute has said, that at the present time, it has no information to substantiate a health risk. Granted, there is a group out there that's saying this is the worst thing that could possibly happen. But there's also a group out there that's saying that 5G is no worse than 4G. In fact, it's better than 4G.
Yeah.
So, to stick us in the middle of this because one person, or two people have said, you got to stop it, I'm sorry. But if this is going to be the first resolution that we adopt after what has happened in Parkland, what has happened in Las Vegas, what has happened at the Pulse nightclub, and what has happened now in El Paso and in Dayton, we should be embarrassed of ourselves. And if we're going to pass any resolution now, the resolution that we ought to be talking about is about gun control. And I would hope that we would at least stop this conversation and not even consider this resolution at this time until we do something that actually saves lives and can save lives. We've had people on Clearwater Beach die from lightning. We haven't heard anybody come forward and say, do a resolution on lightning. We've had people across the country get hurt by umbrellas flowing in the wind. We've had people die because of flesh-eating bacteria. Why aren't we talking about those things as opposed to worrying about something that we don't even know, what the health risks are? And so before we do anything like this, I think if that's the direction that we want to go, we ought to go in this direction.
And I don't disagree with you, Mayor, but my question on the 5G technology and the communications technology that is being developed, it seems to me that as it's being developed, there should be some sort of monitoring of it to determine that it's okay. I can't imagine them being able to just go out and start installing these towers to put in a system that hasn't been vetted. To me, I'd have a hard time believing there's not some sort of information out there that already says that 5G technology is, emits, no more, less, or more, whatever it says, than 4G or 3G or whatever came before that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that the information isn't more readily available. I gotta believe there's some information already out there that someone has already done. It's easy to say, oh, it's not good for me because I just know it's not good for me. But I know a lot of some other cities have done this. I was in a position to, say, this, to me, this is a, nothing type resolution. It's not going to get any action on anything. It's not going to force the federal government or state government to do anything. It's just a exercise to do it. And we could be doing resolutions like this. We could be doing 15 resolutions like this every meeting if it's just for feel good, look good type stuff. Your point kind of swayed me away from necessarily going here. Show me the information that it is unhealthy or dangerous, and I'll jump on a resolution like this in a heartbeat to go against it. But without that information out there, not sure it's something we need to take a position on.
Any other comments?
Converse, I'd like to see the information that shows that they have done research and there is no health or harmful effects.
But that's the thing, there is research on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
The side that's opposed to it is saying that's not good enough research. The National Cancer Institute has said we're comfortable with this. A group of it's about 240 scientists on the other side are saying, well, no, it's not there, and it's not even you. It's a mixture. It's an international group. It's a matter of who are you going to believe, or who do you want to believe? It's not who you're going to believe. Who do you want to believe? And there are those out there who are saying, believe this group, and there's another group saying, no, believe that group. And so that's the dilemma that we're in. And like I say, I'm not necessarily. This shouldn't be the first thing that we're, saying.
Well, this is the timing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this got started before all the big headlines a couple of weeks, within the last couple of weeks. But I kind of agree. I mean, there's so many things out there that we don't have a clear understanding of. But where do you start? We do have pushback from people in our community, and this is not the only thing. So do we have 10 resolutions every week, or,
it opens us up to doing that.
But I would like to get a more, especially with this, since we really don't have any opportunity to say, don't put that cell tower next to that lady's house, because we're out of it. The state of Florida, it's almost let's do a resolution on home rule.
But we also don't have the authority to say, don't sell assault weapons in Clearwater, because they preempted us from that.
Yeah, I understand that.
And to me, that kills people. 5G towers hasn't killed anybody yet.
Do we know it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else like to chime in?
You stay clear of that one.
Well,
So it's do you want this on the agenda for Thursday night or Wednesday night?
About fluoride.
Well, I think it's a good discussion item. I'm not discounting what you're saying, but maybe that's something that we should be discussing in public for that.
Well, this resolution, I'm sorry, it is not what the city of Clearwater would put out. And I would be embarrassed to sign my name to this resolution.
Okay. Can I ask for a poll of where we're at with this with council?
I would say without being provided the information that is being, without being provided the information that's being intimated in this resolution, I'm not ready to say yes on it.
Okay.
I need to see more information before I would support it. I'm not saying I wouldn't support it, given, you know, that information, but I need to see the information.
More of a background information.
Let's look at what section 2 says. It says, the mayor and city council hereby urge the state and federal governments to initiate independently, scientifically reliable studies of the health effects of small cell, wireless, and 5G technology on residential populations, and develop guidelines for the installation of this technology that will protect the health and welfare of the public. Who's going to name the group? How are you going to know it's independent? Because if I agree with the decision, it's independent. If I disagree with the decision, what does that mean? I mean, like I say,
the reason I brought this forward was because I didn't think it just put us in a position to say, yes, we hear both sides of this, and we're urging to give us, the federal government to give us more studies on this. We're not saying we don't like 5G, we're not saying...
But that's not what the resolution says, Mr. Albritton. The resolution says to initiate an independent study. And all I'm saying is there's scientists out there on both sides, and both sides are questioning the decision, you know, the findings that the sides have already made. If you were coming back with a resolution that say, you know, give the cities the opportunity to decide what they want to do, that's one thing, but that's not what this resolution is saying.
Well, all it is urging that we have more information, you know, a yes or a no, because there's nothing out there now. But I'm just bringing it before council for this kind of discussion on it, so.
Okay. But it's your call as to whether or not you want this on the agenda for Thursday night, and in what form you want it on the agenda. Or do you want to go back and try to redraft it?
Well, let me have a chance to talk with the city attorney on this and see if we can address your specific, and see if we can do something that just, that works for us.
We're not trying to get either the state or federal government to give us back the preemptions, right? I mean, all this does is say we would like someone to do an independent study. That's it. It's the only impact of this resolution. Mayor, where I heard you kind of going was talking more about us having more regulatory control. That ship has sailed.
Mm-hmm.
That's never going to happen.
But again, you know, whether you're talking about gun control or whether you're talking about, you know, 5G towers, that has sailed. And so what's the point, you know, of trying to say you want an independent study when you don't know what that independent, you know, who's going to decide who the independent's going to do the independent study?
Federal.
But there are independent studies out there now, and the National Cancer Institute, which is a federal agency, has said that it has not found anything to date.
It says they haven't studied it to find anything. We're just initiating the study.
So, I mean, we, like I say, we ought to be petitioning the federal government to do something on these issues that have killed people as opposed to things that may be killing people.
All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna meet with the city attorney and go over this again and see if there's something we can do that, I don't think it's a bad thing to do this. I don't want to open the door to every little thing, but I know we've had concerns about this. I've been having it for months, so let me get with her. I won't have it on this Thursday agenda. We'll come back with it.
Okay. Any other business, council? I am going to bring up one thing. As some of y'all know, I was in Fort Lauderdale, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. My cousin was staying in a short-term rental unit, and there was a guidebook in the unit that said rules that you had to follow as part of the agreement for renting the property. One of the rules was that there would be no noise audible 25 feet from the property line between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. And I had mentioned it to the city attorney, and she said, well, it's not that simple based on our ordinance, that we would have to do some additional research, but that there's some possibilities there that we may need to consider and then maybe tweak our ordinance. So she asked that I bring this up to y'all to see if y'all would be comfortable in there doing some additional research, and I'll let Ms. Aiken continue on from there.
The ordinance that the mayor is referring to had one paragraph that stated that residential properties cannot generate noise that goes beyond 25 feet of their property line. So this is not about what is heard from a property, but about what comes off of that property into other properties. That was also a part of an ordinance that's very lengthy, very detailed, and is geared around primarily decibels. The only one of the few pieces of that ordinance was this piece that didn't have a decibel meter involved. So while it would work in a residential neighborhood, it's not one of the areas we've been talking about has been more the beach, and it really wouldn't be applicable in tourist districts as opposed to these areas that are residential, either townhouses or single family. I'm not sure which. Single family. So it had a pretty narrow focus, that particular provision, and I expect that it was probably a part of more comprehensive regulation geared toward regulations for short-term rentals. Since you can't directly regulate the short-term rentals any differently than anyone else, some jurisdictions have adopted very stringent regulations like this between the hour of 10 o'clock and 7 a.m. Nothing can be heard 25 feet from your property line. So that's what I suspect this was a part of. So I just have taken a cursory look at it, but their ordinance is very detailed and very decibel oriented. And we have a loud and raucous standard, and this is a deviation from that loud and raucous standard. Because being able to hear something 25 feet from your property line doesn't necessarily make it loud and raucous. So I also have not been able to check yet as to whether or not they've had a legal challenge to that standard. So kind of looking at what you guys, do you want to take a new look at our noise ordinance? We've had this ordinance made a little bit of tinkering over the years, but basically our approach to noise has been consistent. So we're kind of looking, the chief isn't here right now, so we're kind of looking to see what you guys want to do. I know that the police department has not been really interested in decibel meters. That's very difficult for us to work with. So,
Ms. Sagan, I took a photo of the thing, and it said, any and all sounds shall not be plainly audible for a period of 1 minute or longer at a distance of 25 feet or more when measured from the source property line between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. daily.
This was an ordinance, or this was rules on a rental?
No, this was this was quoting the ordinance that was included in the rules that came with the property. You know, a little handbook, they had a handbook.
Yeah.
so they were a short-term rental, and presumably, and they had a list of rules that they had for their users.
Yeah. So like I said, because it may take some time for staff to do that, we needed to, get your opinions as to whether or not y'all would think that it ought to be pursued a little further or not.
I do think we have a lot of difficulty, a lot of complaints about neighbors being too loud. 25 feet off of my property might be right in the middle of Jay's property.
Yeah.
Depending on how close the houses are together, so it may not.
If I might, I can speak to this with regard to the ability to enforce that. So under that situation, I haven't seen that ordinance, someone could be speaking, having a conversation in their backyard, which could conceivably violate this ordinance. I don't think that that's going to be effectively enforceable from a law enforcement perspective. To hear someone speaking 25 feet away, I think is a very low bar. Years ago, we did have a decibel standard, and we migrated to the loud and raucous standard, because in some areas, particularly tourist districts, your ambient noise may violate your decibel standard. So there's some challenges with the ordinance. I don't think the police department would be opposed to looking at it, because we've had these conversations over the decibel thresholds previously. But that presents some other challenges. Again, when you have ambient noise in a location that exceeds the decibel ratings just alone. So there's some challenges to these, but just think of it in those terms. 25 feet away, people talking in the backyard, would we want that enforced?
But of course, we could adjust the 25 feet to 50 feet or 75 feet or whatever, right?
Then you're still in some, then now you're at their front door.
Oh, yeah. No, but I just know that we keep hearing, and at least along the beach, and I think Mr. Hamilton will agree with this, at the Big C, that's the question that keeps coming up over and over again about, tourist rentals, in single-family homes. And so I saw that. I thought it would, be something that at least piqued my curiosity, and I wanted at least to bring it to your attention. But, I'm fine anyway on this.
I don't mean to prolong the meeting, but in the vein of beating your head against the wall and accomplishing nothing, I had a discussion with the city attorney, and I wonder if there'd be any appetite by us as a body to add to our legislative priorities, basically telling the state to give, it goes back to home rule, but give us home rule over our local waterways. We have these derelict vessels all over our waterways. We can't do anything about them because it's the state's issue, and then you go to the state with them and they say, well, we don't have the time or the resources to deal with all this. Well, give us back home rule. I know the example I gave the city attorney, my brother lives right on the water. He looks right across from Island Estates over to the beach. Has a friend who's a retired Navy SEAL who likes to go swimming off of his dock and go scuba diving. And when he comes back, he says, you would be amazed at how much not good stuff is on the bottom of your bay right now, because A, it doesn't get good flushing action in there since Dunedin Pass closed up. That's a whole other argument. But with us not being able to regulate and enforce anything about these boats out in our waters, it's only getting worse. So I would like to try to urge our state legislature to give home rule back to us on our local waterways. And I think, obviously, it's, as you've said, Mayor, it's probably, I got as much luck as beating the head against the wall and it not hurting, but, yeah, I think waterfront communities would be interested in this. The problem is you have a lot of legislators that are inland that don't have any water and have no real passion for this at all. And then it becomes a horse trading. Well, if I give you this, what are you going to give me? And nothing happens. But I wouldn't mind seeing on our legislative priorities home rule over local waters. But I don't know what anybody else feels, but I'm just throwing that out there.
So a
for
lot of
discussion.
things are not an easy fix.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
So
Is
we'll-
that direction to make that a legislative priority or
Have
not?
it listed
Yeah,
as
it's-
a topic
it's-
we'll discuss
it's-
when the
yeah.
package comes forward.
Okay.
So we'll let the noise thing go, that's fine. Okay, anything else, council? Mr. Horn, Ms. Aiken?
No, sir.
Okay, again, thank you, everybody, for your attention. Our meeting will be Wednesday at 6 o'clock. It is hot not only where city offices are in the 600 Cleveland Street Tower, but also in the community, so please stay hydrated. We are adjourned.